Hi, everybody. This is a tired, satisfied, and fulfilled Coach Aaron Saft. I am finished with the Grand Slam. I am happy to report. And we're going to talk today about Wasatch 100 because it took every bit of what I got to get across that finish line. So we're going to dive right into it. I was traveling to Italy for my brother's wedding, and I didn't get back until Labor Day Monday. And we got in that evening, my wife and I I basically just had to make sure my bags were packed because I left the next morning for Utah. So I didn't even have 12 hours at home. I really just turned around and flew back out. So I didn't have time to know what jet lag felt like. So I was pretty exhausted upon arriving in Salt Lake City, but got to Salt Lake on Tuesday and did a few bits of running around. Went over to REI and picked up some supplies that we would need, some things that I couldn't check in. Camp chair, picked up kind of a little table that the crew could use to cook on and such, a cooler, picked up some Yeti ice blocks, and some nutritional things that I thought I could use during the race. So, grabbed the stuff there, and then I hit a grocery store. By that time, it was kind of late afternoon, and I could go check into the VRBO house we were staying at in Kaysville, which is where the start of the race is. So drove there, dropped everything off, kind of got a little bit settled in, and then Nathan got in a little bit early. And I'm going to have Nathan on the podcast. We're going to kind of go through, probably have an episode with Nathan, and then I'll combine that with my coach Patrick Reagan and kind of go through the Grand Slam and kind of our thoughts, as well as talk with Thomas and his thoughts on the Grand Slam and his experience at Wasatch. So a few more episodes to kind of wrap this kind of chapter of Running His Life podcast up. But yeah, Nathan got in, and we grabbed some dinner, and we were both pretty zonked, so got some sleep. Wednesday we woke up and went up to a trailhead, got a nice little run in, and then got back to the house. So we prepared drop bags and kind of got gear together. Because Thursday was packet pickup, and we had to, drop off all the drop bags. So got everything ready, and then our other crew member and pacer, Caleb Gandert, got in Wednesday evening, and got over to the house, and we were just kind of watching TV and hanging out, and just relaxing. So it was kind of a nice day, not too stressful. Thursday we went up to where the first water station is. It's about 9-10 miles into the race, and just did a little run from there just to kind of see it, see what it looked like. And beautiful, gorgeous. Oh my gosh, the views were just fantastic. And then we went down, had some breakfast in town, and kind of right near where packet pickup was. We enjoyed breakfast, and then went over to packet pickup, and packet pickup was really laid back. Walked up, got my number, got the pacer bibs, and my shirt, and that was it. Dropped off my drop bags, and that was packet pickup. Wasn't much to packet pickup. Like I said, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It was nice. We then just went back to the house. I kind of got some crew bags together, things that I thought I might need at the various aid stations. There's only 3 crew stations at Wasatch 100, which makes it pretty difficult. The first one's at about 50K, and then the next one's about 15 miles later. And then we have a long section, about 20 miles, before we hit Brighton, and then at Brighton, there's no more crew access until the finish. So another 50K without crew access. So, had to rely on drop bags a lot. Make sure that my crew had everything I needed for when I saw them so that I could totally resupply. So we got all that stuff together, got the car packed, had a good dinner. Just had some chicken, baked potato, and salad, which was nice. Just kind of sat on the stomach nice. Race start is at 5 a.m. on Friday morning. So we got up about, I think about 3. We got up and got ourselves together, made our way over to the start. Saw some folks there, which was great. People that we know. It was, awesome seeing some fellow North Carolinians. And just, got ready for the start. I was using my Pace 8-liter pack by Usway, and I had it loaded with a 2-liter bladder since I wouldn't see my crew for so long. I started with LMNT as my electrolyte. Tried to go with some Muir energy gels just to see if the slow burn would do any better in the heat. With my stomach, since I've been having so many problems with the heat in these races. And then I continue to use Vespa, using Vespa every 2 hours, and then kind of alternating it with like a Muir gel or chews or something to that effect. So the first part of this race is probably one of the toughest climbs. It's a 4,000-foot climb right at the beginning, and in about 4 miles. It's really insane. If you look at the elevation profile, it just goes straight up at the beginning. And it was a Congo line. I was warned about that. Make sure don't get stuck too far back in the Congo line so that you're not getting close to cutoffs right off the bat. So, placed myself in a pretty good position, not realizing that the person that was, leading this Congo line was the person that had been recording all the videos that I had been watching on YouTube to learn about the race, which was really cool. So, if you're ever looking to do Wasatch, I'll put in the show notes the YouTube video link that you can go to. Scott is his name, and he did a great job with these. I think he was trying to go after finish number 10, which after 10 finishes you get a ring. A lot of people that I met were on their way trying to get to ring status, finish number 10, which is incredible. It's after having done it, I can't say that I would really want to do that race 10 times. But obviously I was in a different circumstance than a lot of these folks, having done Leadville just 3 weeks prior, and gone to Italy in between. My status was a little bit different than most people. I didn't feel too tired from Leadville. I was okay, but unfortunately on Thursday I came down with a cold, so I was actually sick when I started this, and could definitely tell my body didn't have 100%. Energy wise, which, obviously is concerning. And it played out pretty rough throughout the race. We got through the climb, which I was okay. I was able to climb and stay pretty comfortable. We got up to the ridge, and a gentleman said, this next 3 miles is screaming downhill, and people are just going to go too hard, but don't. You're going to be fine. Just go nice and easy. Don't blow out your quads. You're going to pass most of these people later on in the race. So, I just kind of was taking my time on the descent. It was just a nice open fire road. Going down, and man, people were flying by me. I was running about 9-minute pace, and people were just flying past me. So, just kind of kept cruising. Got to that water aid station where we had done our jog prior to the race. I was wearing the Ultra Olympus, just for a little extra cushion and protection. It was pretty rocky. The trail was pretty rocky for the most part, all the way through. There were some sections that were, nice, but there was a lot of rocks. It wasn't overly technical for the most part, but there were sections that were, really pretty tough, pretty sketchy. But that road was pretty nice. And then we got through the water station. I refilled on water. The next aid station would be about, let's see, that was mile 9. So we had another we got to Big Mountain. So, yeah, it was a good ways. So, wanted to make sure I was good on fluids, and, started running on the road that we had run on, and I didn't have my poles out yet. I had my poles with me, but I didn't have them out, and I fell, tore up my knee pretty good, hit my other knee pretty hard on a rock, got up, and somebody checked on me, and I said, I'm okay. Thank you. I was obviously a little bit sore, but I knew I wasn't in any type of danger of being extremely hurt, but I was definitely bleeding. It looked worse than it was. Let's put it that way. And then, he went by, and another guy came, and he fell flat on his face too. So I pulled out my poles at that point, and I was like, I just need to be safe. I need to get through this race and just kind of stay upright. And so the next section just kind of rolled up and down to that, that next aid station. And it was getting sunny, getting hot. So, pulled out my bucket cap, put on some sunblock at the aid station. They cleaned up my leg a little bit because the blood had kind of dripped down my leg. But that was okay. My stomach was a little bit sensitive. I could tell it was a little bit queasy already. The heat was already coming on, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a really rough race if my stomach goes south already. And so I was trying to be careful, trying to be cognizant of what was at the aid stations that I could eat, as well as what I could eat in my pack. But yeah, from that point on, my stomach just turned, unfortunately. I couldn't do Element T. I had to dump out the Element T and just go with water, from there forward. Because the Element T was just not going for some reason. It was the only thing I could drink during Western States, which is interesting. In the heat of Western States, Element T was fine, but on that day it wasn't. I don't know why. But yeah, I had to switch over to water super early. And, I just kind of keep moving forward, and just hope that I could get some calories down. But what I was finding was it wasn't going down. Nothing was going down. My stomach had turned, and, I'm sick. So, it was definitely a little bit worrisome. I was a little bit, I didn't panic, just kind of kept making my way forward. All I kept thinking about was at 50K, I'm going to pick up Nathan. We had a third crew member that was supposed to come. Unfortunately, weather kept him from making it. The weather on the East Coast was such that they couldn't get the planes off the ground. So our third crew member and pacer wasn't able to make it. So Nathan was going to have to cover 2 pacing shifts. And then we just have one crew member with the car. So I just look forward to getting to 50K and seeing Nathan, and having him with me. Again, it just kept getting hotter from that point on. I was definitely sweating. There was my pack was getting salty, and I was doing everything I could, but my throat was just starting to burn, from, being sick. It just was so sore. I could barely talk. I sounded worse than a frog. I sounded worse than I do now, that's for sure. But yeah, I could barely squeak out any words by the time I got to Nathan. I was really just I was in rough shape, when I saw those guys at 50K. Hadn't eaten much at all, unfortunately. I still had fine energy. Like, I was still able to run. I was, getting down sips of water. And so we got in the aid station, and we just took some time there. I sat there, and I had 2 hot dogs, and some food, some broth, some chicken and rice soup. So I was able to get some stuff down. It just took me a while to get it down. I had to take my time. I was able to drink some Coke. I got down an ice pop. So I did get some stuff down at that aid station, which was a big relief to kind of get some food in me. But the next section was, they kept saying it's the toughest section because we go up to a ridge line at the heat of the day where it's going to be super hot and exposed. So, we filled up my bladder. For some reason, the 8-liter pack, it was becoming too restrictive on my chest, and I don't know if it was because I just was hot and feeling sick, but I had to keep unbuckling it, cause the heat definitely was escalating my heart rate. So I was doing everything I could to try to bring my heart rate back down. And I find that if I have, a sternum strap across my chest and I feel any restriction, my heart rate seems to elevate. So I kept it unbuckling it, and moving. We were having a real tough go on the climbs. My heart rate just kept skyrocketing because of the heat. It was a real challenge for me. And at one point I just overheated and got woozy and had to sit down. We found some shade and I kind of leaned up against a tree. At that point we saw Thomas. Thomas came by and checked on us. I was running low on fluids and we had a little while to the aid station and I was getting kind of concerned. Nathan was pouring some water over my head and trying to get my heart rate down, and Thomas was looking at his bottles and I could tell he didn't have much left. I said, "It's okay, buddy. Just go ahead. You're doing great." So I continued to sit there, just trying to get that heart rate down. At that point I was really concerned about my race. I knew I was in really rough shape. I couldn't talk. I couldn't get my heart rate down, which was just a little bit more than I could deal with at the moment. It was hard. I was, I gotta say, that's probably the roughest part of my race right there. Sitting there and just, knowing time was going by and I was not dealing with the heat or the race very well, just because of everything that was going on with my body. And finally, after, good, I don't know how long we sat there, to be honest, but after a good while, my heart rate finally came down and, I felt good. I kept the sternum strap unbuckled and, we proceeded forward and, I was able to move again, without elevating to heart rate. Nathan kept telling me to sip on my water, and, just kind of focus on the effort, don't go too hard, cause it was hot. It got really hot. I say really hot. It was in the 90s. And that sun was full exposure. It was just, it was pretty brutal. The next aid station, we finally made it and, they had ice pops as well, which just really hit the spot. Was able to get a little bit more food down, just some, kind of, broth or some broth and noodles, and just a few little things that I could nibble on and get down, but I was able to get some food down, refill our water. We had about a 6-mile kind of gradual climb to Lamb's Canyon, which is where we would meet Caleb for our second crew point, and I would exchange pacers with Nathan and Caleb. The next section, we latched on to 2 women. One was going for her 8th finish of the Wasatch 100. Saw her late in the race. I believe she got her finish, and her pacer, and they were wonderful. They were great. They were talking and asking questions. Nathan was speaking for me because I could barely speak. It was embarrassing because I could barely talk. Oh man. But it was nice. It was nice to have that conversation, take my mind off of things. And we just climbed at a really nice steady pace. We found ourselves in the shade most of the time, which again was super nice. The temperatures were actually starting to cool down. So things were improving, in that section. Aside from my throat feeling like it was on fire. Aside from that, everything felt much better. And we continued, with these ladies. We got up to the ridge line, and we were running, and actually came into the Lamb's Canyon aid station. I was running pretty well. I was feeling pretty good. Caleb wasn't there, so we were a little bit nervous. Nathan was trying to get a hold of him, and then he arrived not long after that, and we put my puffy on. And threw a blanket over me. I got into the chair, and we just repeated the process of what we've been doing, getting whatever food we could in me, be it hot dogs, be it broth, be it chicken and rice soup, whatever it was. We just kept working on, getting myself whatever I could get in me, because the next section, it seemed to repeat. As soon as you got out of an aid station, you had a huge climb, and we had a really big climb in front of us, another 4,000 feet of gain, and going into the night. So out of the aid station, going with Caleb, it was a road for 1.5 to 2 miles, and it just kind of climbed to this single track trail. And by the time we hit the single track trail, things were starting to improve. It did get dark. We turned on our lamps, and I was able to climb really well, really powerful. I felt the best I had since the race started, and we were just passing people, and I was feeling great, just moving really well. My stomach still wasn't right, I still couldn't eat anything else. We tried some gummy Coke bottles, which are my favorite, but I really just couldn't get things down without kind of gagging, unfortunately. So yeah, sugar still wasn't working great, aside from like maybe drinking Coke. But so it was tough, and my throat was still really sore, but starting to improve. My voice was starting to coming back. I was able to drink a little bit more now that I was out of the heat of the day. I know I needed it more during the heat of the day, but my stomach started to tolerate things a little bit better over the course of the night. And that climb, it seemed to go on for a good long time, but we made good time of it. We got up it pretty quick, and I got really sleepy before the aid station, and just told Caleb I need to lay down for a little bit. I think everything was taking its toll on me between the heat, the dehydration, being sick. So I laid down for about 15 minutes. There was a good switchback that had this little cove that we could get off the trail and be out of the way, and I fell asleep for a good 15 minutes and just kind of got some rest. I woke up pretty refreshed and made it to the aid station. Repeat the process, getting in whatever we could. They had a little heater there, so just kind of stayed next to that for a little bit and got some food back in me. Really nice volunteer that was a 10-time finisher, David. He was wonderful, trying to help me resolve stomach issues. We did whatever we could there, and then moved on. We had one more aid station to get to between there and Brighton, and so we are making our way towards that aid station. We had a little descent and then another climb up to the aid station. We were coming on this ridge line. It was kind of it was almost a road, almost a dirt road. But I started falling asleep again, and I fell into a pothole and almost hurt myself. So I said, Nathan, it was Caleb. Caleb, I got to lay down again. I'm going to be a danger to myself, and I don't want to be a danger to you. So, I laid down for a bit. We found a good spot and, got about, 10 to 12 minutes of sleep in. Woke up again, feeling pretty refreshed, and then we could kind of see the lights of where we guessed Brighton would be. So, it was kind of a nice grade that I could start to run again, and then it started to go downhill. So I was able to run into Brighton. And get into Brighton. Brighton is a little ski lodge. The aid station's inside. It's nice and warm. They had some good food. So, sat down there. Nathan was there. And that's where I would pick up Nathan from there to the finish, roughly 50K to go. And nothing was guaranteed at this point, which still was a little unnerving, with the goal of obviously finishing so I could finish the Grand Slam. But things were looking good. But, out of Brighton is a huge climb to the highest point on the course. Once again, here, repeat, go out of an aid station and hit a climb. But, we took our time there at Brighton. I fell asleep in my chair, got a little rest, but I also got some, again, some good food in me. We switched over to my 15-liter pack, which held everything so much better, so much more comfortable. I could buckle it without having any problems. So the 15-liter pace was just spot on. It's probably what I needed the entire time. racing, so that 15-liter pack made the difference. But I went out, the nighttime was cold with Caleb. I had been, kind of putting on and off my my puffy just to stay warm, but it was really hard. My body couldn't regulate its temperature. I think I had a fever, after the day. So my body was, cold and hot and hot and cold. It was just really hard to regulate my temperature. I had a number of layers with me, so I kept switching between layers, which was tough, while you're racing, just kind of try to regulate your body temperature. When we got into Brighton, I said, all right, this is where I want to go forward with. And I gave them my puffy and pulled out my Solomon Bonatti race jacket, and I had a wool base layer. I said, this should be good. And we loaded up my pack and sent me off, with Nathan to finish this off. And as soon as I got outside, I started shivering. And I was like, oh no, I made the wrong choice. But as we began climbing, it only took a few minutes before I got comfortable. And I knew I was in the right, amount of clothes. So we climbed up from Brighton. The trail was, basically a ski slope, and then it turned into a single track, which was super rocky and some creek crossings and such, but yeah, we kept going up. We knew what we had to do. Nathan kept reassuring me, "We got this. We're going to do this. We're going to finish this." And I believed him. I was with him. I was like, "Yeah, this is what we got to do. If anything's going to pull me off this course, it's going to be time. I'm not gonna stop and quit." So we kept moving, and as we got towards the top, the daybreak was starting, and oh man, the sun came up, and it was just a gorgeous picture. What a gorgeous view! The sun coming up over the Wasatch Range. What a great memory, seeing that together. And then it's just a really steep descent down into Ants Hill aid station. So we just kind of ran down best we could. Again, super rocky, but made our way down into the aid station. We were pretty quick at that aid station, just grabbed a few things, and then we had a brief little climb. Definitely was a punch in the gut, but we climbed up this steep little bit and got up to the ridge and took a few pictures because, man, it was just so scenic. And then, from there we started running really well. It was a ridge line. And, anytime we had a little uphill, we hiked, but anytime we had a flat or downhill, we ran, and we ran pretty well. We were moving well again. We caught up with Thomas. Great to see him. He was doing great. And he just moving really well. At this point, we started to smell the barn. We started to know we were going to finish, and Thomas said the same thing. He's like, we've got plenty of time. We're going to finish this. We got into the next aid station. I was able to get down some hash browns, which actually went down really well and fueled me really well for the next section. And so, I was feeling pretty positive, feeling pretty good because we were running and moving well. So we kept going. It rolls up and down, some climbs, some descents, before you hit the plunge, which, oh my goodness, the plunge was so steep. It's just this downhill. It's a very silty sand, so you just slide. We ended up on our butts a few times because it was just so steep. And you're just kind of sliding down it, and it was long. Oh my gosh, it was so long, such a long descent, especially at that point in the race. To have something so steep and so long, it was just, really taxing on the legs. And then, again, it just kind of rolled up and down for a bit, and then another long descent. Not as bad as the plunge, but pretty similar to the plunge. That went down to, let's see, that would have been the, third to last aid station, which is at about mile 90. So, here we are 10 miles from the finish. And we filled up our bladders with some water and ice because we'd be exposed again. We'd been kind of in the trees and protected from the sunlight. It was hot. We're definitely back in the 90s by now, and we came out on this road totally exposed, but very runnable, very flat. And then all of a sudden they turned us left through this field, and it connected us to what looked like an old railroad bed. Still pretty exposed. A slight grade kind of brought us up above the valley floor. But we followed that all the way to the next aid station, where I was praying they had some ice pops, because it was really hot at that point. Above, it was over 95 degrees at that point, and they just had water and ice. So we filled up with water and ice and kept going. It kind of brought us up, excuse me, above the, you could see the lake where we finished, and we assumed what would be the finish line, which we were correct in looking down and saying that's probably where we're going to finish. So you could see it, but it was still, a good, probably, 8 miles or so away. And so we came down not knowing what to expect. And, you cross over a road and you head up this little climb, and then from there, the trail was pretty non-existent. It was just kind of flagging that took you through, what best could be described as goat trails. It wasn't really a trail that I would designate as, this is very, runnable and very well maintained. That was not the case. We descended through this and caught up with another group, and my neighbor, Shannon Colleague, was with that group. She lives not less than a mile from me. I knew she was there. I'd seen her earlier in the race, but I thought she would probably be done by now. So, to my surprise, there she was. So we spent a few miles with her, just walking and talking. We knew we had time, which was, such a nice luxury, knowing that we were good and we were going to finish, and we could walk it in if we wanted to. So we got to the last aid station, about 4.5 miles to go, very close to the lake on which we finish. And, we just kind of grabbed a few things there, resupplied our water, and made sure we were good there, and headed over to the lake with about 3 miles to go. Once we reached the lake, you just stay on the lakeshore trail, which actually rolls up and down quite a bit, but, we were moving along pretty well, and we started jogging and heading, closer and closer to the finish. It was screaming hot. I think it got up to like 97. So fully exposed. But just excited to get to the finish. I finally allowed myself the emotion to know that I was finishing. Choked up a few times for sure. And just kind of thought about what I was going to do, when I finished, and decided I was going to FaceTime with my wife so she could see it. It was wonderful. Just coming out, coming off the lake, popped out on a road. There's a sign that says 3/4 mile to the finish. So you just head down the road. You can see the finish line. I called my wife, got her on the phone so she could see the finish line with me. And just, crossed the line with Caleb and Nathan, just giving them big hugs and telling my wife, thank you so much, and for everything, for being a part of this and for letting me do it. It was such a welcome and relieving finish, to get across that line, and just be done with this. It was like a huge weight just fell off my shoulders, having completed it, having completed Wasatch and being done. And, they give you your trophy, your Grand Slam trophy right there. They do all the engraving, you get a plaque that has your name, date, time, finish place, all of that. You get your buckle. I got a Grand Slam shirt. And so it was just really special, really nice. So we stayed for a bit, made sure we grabbed our drop bags, but then we had to head back because we had an early flight the next morning. Really wish we could have stayed around. Thomas did finish, but we couldn't find him. We didn't see him. We were there, but we couldn't find him. We missed him come across the finish line, but, so proud for Thomas again. I'll have him on and Nathan on so they can kind of talk about this, from their perspective as well. But just so happy, so relieved, so grateful. Oh my gosh, to get through this summer, to get through these hundreds. There's no plan for what's next. I'm really just celebrating this and going to enjoy my recovery without thinking about what's next or what am I going to do. It feels pretty good to be in that position. to not have to worry about it. I've checked off so many different bucket list races. I will talk about an opportunity that presented itself in Italy as soon as that becomes a reality. So there is something on the horizon, but it won't be until late next year. So we'll make sure that happens first before we talk about it. Yeah, other than that, I just want to thank all of you for your constant support, your words of encouragement, and, words of congratulations. The outpouring of support has just been tremendous. I am so overwhelmed by everybody's kindness. It's wonderful to be a part of this community. I thank you for following my journey and for listening to the podcast, for listening to my story. If I can help you in any way, whether it be through coaching or questions that you have for your races, please ask, please reach out. I'd love to be that resource. Happy to help if I can. Check out my website, runningislife.run. All of the links for my contacts are in the show notes. I'm happy to kind of go through those things. Really looking forward to getting back to the newsletter, which if you would like to subscribe, it's a free newsletter. I usually do it every month, but I kind of took a break through the Grand Slam. I'm going to get back to that because I miss it. I love writing. I love the introspection that it provides. So, I'm going to get back to writing the newsletter. So, you can subscribe there. Man, it's just, what a journey. I can't believe it's over. I don't have the post-race blues or the post-ultra blues. It's just such a wonderful celebration of everything that's occurred. So I'm in a good place. I'm feeling better. I'm getting over whatever it was that I had. I'm still a bit exhausted, obviously, from everything. So I'm glad it's time to take a break. But I thank you guys once again for everything, for being a part of this and sharing my journey. So, as I said, we'll be having some more guests coming up here. So, if you guys want to hear anything specific, if you have any questions for myself or for any of the guests that I mentioned, please, reach out, let me know what questions you have. Love to answer those on the podcast. So, thank you guys. And until next time, keep moving forward.